Hi, Rachel.
Hi, Sandras.
My first question is why would we need to integrate stent into art?
Well, wanting to, having the better of the experience of everyone is slightly different questions, but from the point of view of having art that is multimodal, I think that the sense of smell is an especially important feature of that. So we obviously have visual. If we have art that's hanging on a wall, that's, some kind of modification of a visual modality. We have auditory. If it is music, we have auditory, visual, and movement if it's dance. But from the point of view of most forms of art, smell has typically been lacking. And it is such an important sensory experience because it brings people to the immediate moment. It's an extremely visceral sensory experience, and it's profoundly, intimately, and uniquely connected to emotion, as well as regardless, it will bring a much more immersive emotional experience to the art form when it is combined with other things and can exist as art in and of itself, which is what perfume is.
And and maybe you can give me some good example of artwork which which use scent, very strong one.
Uh, no, I can't give you. I mean, I know Bruno's work is a very, very interesting example of that music and scent, but I've worked with artists over the years who have wanted to integrate scent into their visual or performance pieces. Off the top of my head, I cannot think of a specific piece. I did not know you were going to ask me this question, and nothing specifically sort of jumps out to me in that context, but there have been many artists over the years who have periodically use scent as part of their artwork, even if they're primarily a visual artist or primarily an auditory artist. But you probably also know Sissel Tolis is probably the most famous long-term artist that has consistently used scent in her work. That has, it's a signature aspect of her creativity. So she, for instance, is someone who I think is really the founder of having scent in art as a centerpiece of the creative process.
And what would you suggest to artists that would just maybe they're not still using, but they're thinking to use scent into art? What would be your
My
suggestion?
advice?
Yes.
Well, I think that definitely the thing with smell, and this is from any perspective, whether you're a scientist or an artist or however you're going to be using it, is you need to experiment with it. You need to see how it works with whatever it is you're trying to create. And what is your question? What is it that you're trying to convey? How will scent bring more meaning, bring more depth, bring more whatever it is that you're trying to do with scent into what you're creating. It may be that scent is actually the centerpiece. It may be that scent is a modifier to a certain aspect of what you're creating. I think with music in particular, and also with dance and performance, it can come on and off more easily than potentially in other forms where it could be used maybe more consistently. One of the problems with having scent on constantly, so if you had a piece, for instance, that was continuously emitting scent, is that first of all, you have the ambient environment that you have to be aware of, that you may be interfering with other experiences within the same space. And also, unfortunately, this is a feature physiologically of our perception of smell, is that when we're exposed to scent for any length of time, really up to 20 minutes is basically the maximum, but it can happen in just a minute or two of a constant exposure to a scent, we stop being able to detect it. So if I were looking at your piece, let's say you had a mural which was also emitting a scent, and I stood there for 5 minutes, I run the risk of not being able to perceive the scent after a short period of time while I'm in front of it. So, depending upon what experience you're trying to get from the viewer, you may want to either have scent present intermittently, so coming on and off, so that you're prolonging this period before I lose being able to detect it, or only have it if it's something that maybe there's movement involved or something which is changing, like in video or also in sound where you can have it timed with certain other elements. That would be something to recommend. It's also the case, though, and this is something to consider, especially comparing to the visual modality, but also to auditory hearing, is that smell is a very slow sense, sensorily speaking. So it takes much, much longer, basically, you know, it takes basically a half a second for you to be able to recognize there's a smell out there. It takes a millisecond, so 500 times faster for you to be able to register something visually or in terms of hearing. So if you're trying to type, this is one of the reasons why film connected with scent has been difficult to do, because if a scene is changing rapidly and you're trying to have scent be combined with the different visual elements of what's going on the screen, it's very hard to time that, as well as the fact that you need the odor to leave and then bring a new one. And that is also very slow. And there's both physiological and physical issues that are associated to that. So my recommendation from the point of view of timing and pairing scent with, let's say, visual or auditory motif is to make sure that whatever it is you're pairing can stay on for a period of time, that you're not trying to do rapid juxtapositions of scent with the visual scene and trying to have it leave and then so on. The other thing finally to consider is that smell molecules are themselves very sticky. They have the property of them is lipophilic, and that is what helps us be able to perceive them. This also means, though, that they stick to things. They stick to clothing, they stick to hair, they stick to paint, they stick to upholstery. So in an indoor space where, let's say, you have potentially multiple artists who are depicting something with scent, that scent is also going to stick to the paint on the walls, is potentially going to stick to other things around. And you need to be careful with that so that, A, you don't get intermixing, but also so that, let's just say you had an installation space and you had, one artist doing all kinds of different sorts of things with smell, and then that artist left after their exhibition. You walk back into that exhibition space and you would potentially still be able to smell the scent that's left over. It's like if someone were smoking in an apartment and then they moved out of the apartment, you walk in, you can smell that they were a smoker because you can smell that the paint has absorbed that and the carpeting has absorbed that and so forth. So likewise, depending upon the scents that you're using, especially if they're strong scents, you're going to have to be considerate and consider how that's going to interact with the environment you're in and how that may need to be changed between artists, how that may possibly interfere with other artists, and so forth. So there's sort of like the citizenship of artistry and the space that you're in to think of as well.
Thank you very much, Rachel.
You're very welcome, Sandras.